Welcome to Steno Dictation by PT. 5 seconds. Start. The world is currently witnessing a period of unprecedented geopolitical instability that has raised serious concerns about the possibility of a third global conflict. The long standing tensions in the Middle East, particularly the recent developments involving Israel and its neighbors, have created a ripple effect across the globe. At the center of this volatile situation is the United States of America, whose unwavering support for Israel has become a focal point of international debate. As we analyze the current circumstances, it becomes evident that the strategic alliances and military maneuvers we see today are reminiscent of the pre war eras of the past. For decades, the United States and Israel have maintained a unique and robust strategic partnership. This relationship is built on shared democratic values, intelligence cooperation, and mutual security interests. However, the current escalation has put this alliance under a microscope. The United States has provided significant military aid and diplomatic backing to Israel, asserting its right to self defense. This support, while expected, has triggered varied reactions from the international community. Critics argue that such deep involvement by a global superpower could potentially escalate a regional skirmish into a full scale international war involving multiple nations and nuclear powers. These circumstances surrounding the current conflict are not limited to the borders of Israel alone. The involvement of various paramilitary groups and neighboring states has made the situation highly complex. There are growing fears that a miscalculation by any of the involved parties could lead to a broader regional war. The international maritime routes, energy supplies, and global trade are all at risk. Major world powers are now taking sides, creating a bipolar world structure that is increasingly dangerous. The deployment of naval assets by the United States in the Mediterranean is seen by many as a deterrent, but by others as a provocation that brings us closer to a global standoff. As the US strengthens its position alongside Israel, other global players like Russia and China are also making their presence felt. The dynamics between these superpowers are crucial in determining whether the global situation remains contained or spills over into a global catastrophe. Russia's involvement in regional politics and China's growing economic influence is the Middle East mean that any action taken by the West is met with a counter response. This modern day Cold War atmosphere is fueled by advanced technology, cyber warfare, and economic sanctions, making the threat of world war much more multidimensional than ever before. One of the most immediate impacts of these war-like circumstances is the instability of the global economy. The Middle East remains a vital hub for global energy production. Any disruption in this region leads to a surge in oil prices, affecting every household and industry across the world. The threat to international shipping lanes, especially in the Red Sea, has already forced companies to rethink their logistics. Economic experts warn that a prolonged conflict involving the United States and Israel could lead to a global recession, further fueling social unrest and political instability in various countries, including the developed nations of Europe and Asia. Beyond politics and economics, the humanitarian cost of the current conflict is devastating. The loss of innocent lives and the destruction of infrastructure have led to a massive outcry from human rights organizations. This has created a divide in global public sentiment. In many Western countries, including the United States, there are internal protests regarding the government's foreign policy. This domestic pressure adds another layer of complexity for policymakers who must balance national interests with ethical considerations and public opinion. The struggle for a ceasefire and a long term peace plan remains elusive as the trust between the warring parties continues to erode. What makes the current threat of a world war particularly terrifying is the advancement in military technology. We are no longer in the era of traditional warfare alone. The use of drones, precision guided missiles, and sophisticated air defense systems like Israel's Iron Dome has changed the battlefield. Furthermore, the threat of nuclear escalation remains the ultimate nightmare for global leaders. The United States' commitment to providing the most advanced weaponry to its allies ensures a technological edge, but it also prompts adversaries to seek even more lethal compatibilities, leading to a dangerous arms race that threatens the very existence of humanity. Despite the drums of war beating loudly, the international community continues to search for the diplomatic exit. The United Nations and various neutral nations are working tirelessly to bring the parties to the negotiating table. However, the deep seated historical grievances and the clash of national identities, like a compromise, extremely difficult. The United States faces the challenge of being a mediator while also being a primary supporter of one side. The path to peace requires a grand bargain that addresses the security concerns of Israel while also fulfilling the aspirations of the people in the region for a sovereign and stable future. In this global chaos, nations like India have maintained a balanced and cautious approach. India's long standing relationship with both the Arab world and Israel puts it in a unique position to advocate for peace. The Indian government has consistently called for the cessation of hostilities and a return to the path of dialogue. As a rising global superpower, India's voice carries weight in international forums for the youth and professionals in India. Understanding these global shifts is essential as the outcomes of these conflicts will directly influence India's energy security, strategic interests, and its role in the New World Order. In conclusion, the current circumstances involving America and Israel are a stark reminder of how fragile global peace truly is. The world stands at a crossroads where one wrong move could plunge us into a darkness reminiscent of the two world wars of the 20th century. The lessons of historic teach us that war brings only destruction and that true victory lies in the preservation of human life and dignity. It is the collective responsibility of global leaders to prioritize diplomacy over defense and dialogue over destruction. As we navigate through these turbulent times, the hope remains that wisdom will prevail over ego and that a sustainable peace will be established for the generations to come. Thank you.